What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and I'm going to get right to the point here. In case you do not know, something I do from time to time is work with my friends at the BR app. They are wonderful. I love working with them, and I do some live streams for them from time to time. Usually it's the day after a Dallas Cowboys game, offering up some thoughts. In the coming month or so, month and change, I'll be doing a lot of post-game shows for them. They will be live. I know a lot of you have asked about live shows in the past. You can access them directly in the BR app. But one of the best parts about this whole thing is that I am able to take the live stream that I did and share it here with you on the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel. So I did a stream on Monday afternoon, the day after the Cowboys lost to the Baltimore Ravens, and I wanted to at least get your feet wet, get our feet wet with sharing them and getting the process started. So here is that stream. You'll hear me introduce things and everything, etc., etc. And there will be a video later on today on Monday with my classic traditional day after thoughts following the Cowboys loss to the Baltimore Ravens. But without further ado, here is me in the BR app talking about the Cowboys losing to the Baltimore Ravens. What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and I trust that you are rather pissed off. The Dallas Cowboys below 500 for the first time in quite a while as a result of losing to the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday afternoon, 28-25, the final score. We are here one day after the fact. It is Monday, September 23rd, to talk about it, and we are here in the BR app, the very best app in the world of sports. I say it all the time because I'm so fortunate to work with the fine folks at BR. This is the very best app in the world of sports. I love sports beyond the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know why I love the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know why I do this to myself, but I love the Houston Astros. Hopefully we clinch the AL West tonight. I love Manchester United. Also, don't know why I do that to myself. I love the San Antonio Spurs. Things are looking up there. Love Arizona State Sun Devils. Things are kind of okay there, but I have to keep tabs and keep track of a lot of different things, and the BR app helps me do that. You can follow me in the BR app right down below. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, RJ.Ochoa. If you like what I do, you can also watch me on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel, hear my discussions as it relates to the Dallas Cowboys, but I do a lot of streams here in the BR app as well. I'll be here after the next few Dallas Cowboys games, after Thursday Night Football. Won't be here then, but for the next couple of post games, we'll be commiserating or celebrating together, and it's really a lot of the former. It's really only the former right now. Something I write, and I actually haven't written it yet to kind of fully let you know how the sausage is made, but something I like to do every week at bloggingtheboys.com is something I call next day thoughts or day after thoughts, right? Because we've all been in situations in life where we've made a decision or something happened to us and we slept on it, right? And we felt differently about it, right? We either feel optimistically about it relative to how we felt in the moment, or maybe, pessimistically about it, right? Sometimes perspective or time, the marinating of the moment, if you will, changes and adjusts and amends how we feel about it. I don't think that this changed at all. I think that this is the exception to that. I think we are still pissed off. I think that we are irate. And look, you have your handful of homers out there. Hey, it's only September. They're 1-2. They're going to be okay. Why are you freaking out? Why are you complaining about Derrick Henry? We're freaking out and we're complaining because all of the things that we spent the entire offseason lamenting about, all of the things that you people said that we were whining and complaining about, guess what? We were right. Guess what? Not signing any players in free agency has some consequences. Guess what? Bringing Zeke Elliott back as your bright, shining superstar move at the running back position has some consequences. Guess what? Delaying paying your franchise cornerstone superstar players and forcing them to not have all of training camp to work together, say it with me, class, has some consequences. The consequences are here. The reaping is here for the Cowboys. The sowing is awesome, but the reaping is horrible, and that's what the Cowboys are experiencing here. Although I don't know what fun the sowing was. I don't know what the Cowboys exactly sowed. I see you 24/7 football says might as well start talking about the draft. Welcome, Travis Hunter. Aaron Tomlinson 98 says, I don't know why anyone expected us to be good, because there's a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans, Aaron. There's a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans, and it's kind of like statistics or history. You can find an example of anything, right? We're talking about the NFL here. This is a league that's 100 years old. You can find an example of anything to prove your point. So because there is this wide swath of Dallas Cowboys fandom all over the world, you can find someone who believes anything and everything. You can find the people who hear Jerry Jones last night. I know you all got the BR notification. You can find the people who hear him say, oh, we couldn't afford Derrick Henry. You can find the people that will believe that. You can find the people that will buy what the front office is shoveling out there because they know that they have messed up bad. Marcus says we didn't attack in the draft and it's expected. I would disagree with that. I would push back there a little bit. I think the Cowboys handled the draft as best as they could. Now, they made a really improper bed, but I do think that they made proper lemonade out of that specific situation. But if this is your point, it didn't have to be that way. I think you're saying in your next comment here, it says means free agency. Yeah, if the Cowboys had been way more aggressive in attacking in free agency, if that's your point, I agree with you. They could have absolutely affected to a significant degree what they did and therefore didn't do throughout the course of the 2024 NFL draft. 24/7 Football says, can we please put this on the coaches on front office? I think that this is one of those things where multiple things can be true, but multiple people can be at fault. The front office is to blame, right? There's no question about it. The fact that Rico Dowdle is the starting running back for this football team, it's unfortunate because I like Rico Dowdle, and I think you like Rico Dowdle, and Rico Dowdle can do some solid things as an NFL player, but the situation is exacerbated because he's the starting running back for the team, and that goes for Tyler Guyton too, right? Like this could go for a lot of different situations on the roster at the moment. I think we all think the world, and we have high expectations for Tyler Guyton, but maybe expecting him to be a superstar left tackle through 3 NFL games is a little bit silly, right? And so the fact that he's not then leads to some people being really frustrated with the situation. And so from a coaching perspective, I feel for Mike McCarthy. And if you follow my work, I have defended Mike for a very long time. And I maintain that he has done a lot of things that relative to the context of this circus show that we all signed up to root for because we have some deep problems within ourselves. Relative to this circus show, Mike McCarthy has done some impressive things. That is a separate point from where we are now, where he is not making lemonade. This is a disaster, what we are seeing from the Cowboys. From a head coaching perspective, to your point, if you want to bag on the head coaching or the coaching staff, let's go ahead and do it. From just a head coaching standpoint, we heard all about how this was a measuring stick game and it was a serious game and it was a desperation game, and you come out and you get the doors blown off of you for the second week in a row, the third game in a row in your own building. It is so clear, it is so obvious that everybody on this team is kind of checked out with this head coach. And I feel for Mike McCarthy on a human level because I want to have compassion and grace for all human beings. But that being said, Mike McCarthy has to do a better job of instilling some level of fight. Shout out to Jason Garrett. If you know, you know. But it is all weaving, together. The front office set this up by setting him out in a contract year, a lame duck year. Everybody knows that. And so you do kind of tie one hand behind his back. But from an offensive play calling perspective, because Mike McCarthy is the offensive play caller, there is nothing happening. There is no schematic advantage that Mike McCarthy currently offers to the Dallas Cowboys offense. What happened to the motion? What happened to the movement? What happened to attacking weaknesses in the defense? What happened to creating space for your playmakers to thrive? In case you did not see, I tweeted this out. Dak Prescott threw into tight windows 35.3% of the time against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday afternoon. That was his highest mark in a single game of throwing into tight windows since week 4 of 2018. That was a game that Dallas barely won against the Detroit Lions. And the reason that point in time is significant is because that was the infamous wide receiver by committee approach that the Cowboys front office took, and Dak Prescott had nobody. Things got so dire that season that Dallas had to trade their first-round draft pick to the then Oakland Raiders to bring Amari Cooper to town. And thank God Amari's still on the team because he's awesome at creating separation. It would be so stupid if the Cowboys would get rid of Amari Cooper because doing so would lead them to be in a situation where they have only a single offensive playmaker that can do that in CeeDee Lamb. Oh, wait, that's where we are. So back to your comments. I agree with you that Mike McCarthy is certainly, worthy of criticism based on what we've seen through this very small sample size. Let's see. Let me scroll up here. I missed a few. Let's see. Ice in My Veins 55 says, have to get trade for serviceable running back or defensive tackle if the front office is truly all in. No, nothing against you, Ice in My Veins. I'm so sick of the all in. I'm so exhausted of the all in. I'm so tired of trying to decipher what all in means. here's the truth. All in was just a thing that Jerry Jones said, and it's a thing that took on a life of its own that continues to plague this franchise and this organization. It has done nothing but serve as a cloud over everything that has happened in the aftermath of two very small words that casted an enormously annoying shadow. Ghostman, speaking of shadows, Ghostman5 says Dalvin Cook will be elevated. Look, I don't want to disparage Dalvin Cook because we have not seen him play a game for the Dallas Cowboys. So I don't want to be pre-negative. That being said, think about how down bad we are as a fandom, right? Like all of us together, all of us here around the proverbial campfire, strutting our guitars, singing Kumbaya. We are so down bad that we are begging this franchise to elevate Dalvin Cook. And what's going to happen, no offense to you, Ghostman5, not calling you out, not saying this is going to be you, but what's going to happen is eventually they're going to promote him because, well, duh, everything is really, really, really bad. And then you know what's going to happen? He's not going to be good because what's the case here? He's not good. And that's not Dalvin Cook's fault. But we're going to fall for it because we're dumb. And that whole week, we're going to be saying, all right, here comes Dalvin Cook, baby. Watch out. And then he's going to have like 12 carries for 38 yards. And we're going to be sitting here saying, what happened? What happened was the time to get Dalvin Cook, the proverbial Dalvin Cook, was in March and April. You cannot do this in the final weeks of September. You cannot begin to take things seriously at this stage in the game. I'm not trying to say that everything is dead on arrival at this point in time, but you have made this situation far more difficult than it had to be for no reason other than that you wanted to. And that is what is frustrating because we all said it as it was happening. We all told you as everything was unfolding how stupid and how dumb and how careless and reckless it was, yet you did it anyway. Keon LF, I think it's LF, says we never take advantage of free agency. Agree with you. It's so disappointing and apparent at this point. Why draft well, but don't follow through with trying to achieve the ultimate goal? It's more than just free agency, although I completely agree with you. It's a matter of setting everybody up poorly. The Cowboys paint themselves into these corners and drag everybody into the corner with them. And then they say, all right, get us out. Again, the point at hand is the Cowboys are right now in a position where Tyler Guyton has to be a badass as a rookie. Cooper Beebe has to be a badass, right? Jalen Brooks has to be a badass in his second year as a 7th-round draft pick. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, asking them to be badasses is a little bit different because they are certifiable badasses, but you get my point. You don't have to ask everybody to be elite all of the time. You know, it would be smart raising the floor for what you do, adding lots of really good people so that if somebody is having a non-badass day, you have other people who can elevate them and who can lift them up. I mentioned at the top, for those of you who joined in late, I'm a Houston Astros fan. And just to kind of put this in perspective for those of you who follow baseball, you'll get this analogy. Ryan Presley is an amazing closer. He has been amazing for the Houston Astros. But you know what Jim Crane did at the beginning of this season, right before it started? He said, Josh Hader's available. I want more of the really good thing. And people are going to sit here and say, well, what are you going to do? Who's going to be your closer? I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'd rather have 2 awesome things than 1 awesome thing. And if that 1 awesome thing doesn't wind up being awesome, guess what? I have the other awesome thing to lean on. But the Cowboys, they find one really good thing and they say, we need you to be awesome now. And we need you to make up for the lack of awesome things because that's the Dallas Cowboys way. It's so silly. It's so ridiculous. It doesn't have to be this way. And it makes everything complicated and toxic for everybody involved. All right. Marcus Moore says, move up Dalvin Cook and if possible, trade for Cortland Sutton. T West 311 says, at least our special teams is elite. Let's see. Tony Space says the front office has all the blame. I agree with you. I'm going to give you the fire emoji. Let's see. Cowboys Merce says Jerry does it every year. Try to sell the fans on the team is better than what they really are. Yeah, that's kind of normal at this point in time. Troduce, I'm going to give you a fire emoji, says, telling the media we couldn't afford him, Derrick Henry, is an atrocity to someone who is supposed to be a great businessman. And here's the thing. I'm going to tell all of you right now who are here on the live stream or who are watching after the fact, because you can do that in the VR app in case you didn't know, which is why it is the very best app in the world of sports. But all of you are geniuses. And I love and respect all of you because all of you are so well informed because of things like BR and because of the place that media is in today's day and age. I would like to believe because of, people like me, bloggers like me, because we're all able to talk and learn and educate ourselves. These things are we know them to be wrong, right? We're the average fan is far more educated and informed than 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you could do your weekly radio hit when nobody had access to information in their pocket or, on their devices or whatever the case. And you could peddle whatever you wanted and people would buy it because how could they not? He said it on the radio. He said it on the nightly news. It was a big deal, right? Now people know that. You can look up overthecap.com and you can prove how Jerry Jones is full of it and how it is absolutely not true, and that the Cowboys not only could have afforded Derrick Henry, but that it actually would have been wise, as we said all along, for the Cowboys to get the Dak extension done and the CD extension done way ahead of time, not only because it would have beat the market rate that elevated as every player beyond them continued to sign and sign and sign and sign, but because it would have alleviated, like it ultimately did, salary cap space that they could have used in that moment. And there are fans, and I get it, who get dejected with hearing these things over and over and over again and who say, well, so what? They should have done this. No, not so what. We tell you these things now so that when we get to March of next year, you don't fall for it again. This is the kind of stuff that is not only avoidable, but 100% absolutely unequivocally completely preventable. This was all preventable. Would the Cowboys be 3-0 if they had done the things that we're saying? No, that's not my point. But they wouldn't be down this rabbit hole of funk, and they would at least be in a position to be able to survive some of these things. Think about how bad they are. This is really, 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 really bad. They allowed 274 rushing yards from the Baltimore Ravens. It was the third worst rushing yards margin in a game ever. The Cowboys had 51 rushing yards, and ever as relative to Dallas Cowboys franchise history. They had 51 rushing yards themselves after Jerry Jones gassed up Zeke Elliott and Rico Dowdle. They allowed 274 rushing yards. That is a rushing yards margin of negative 233, the third worst ever in a game by this franchise. Okay. Now, had Derrick Henry been on the Cowboys, would they have won? That's not my point. But they are in this place where everything is bad and our pets' heads are falling off and everybody's healthy. Right? Like you look at teams like right now, the Green Bay Packers, and their quarterback is out, right? And they're finding a way. You know why? Because they have other awesome players. They have dudes they can count on, dudes they can rely on, and they have coaching that's going to take advantage or strengthen the weaknesses of their players or do things to hide the weaknesses of their players. They're not just asking the Dak Prescotts and the CeeDee Lambs of the world to go be great, play in and play out. Cowboys Cook 76 says that's a rebuild season. Dallas will have so much cap money next season. We're going to the Super Bowl next season. I hope so. Ice in my veins 55 says, you talked about McCarthy, but I want to know your thoughts on Zimmer. Give me the thumbs up emoji. Okay, let's take a look. We've just kind of been ranting, and I appreciate the back and forth that we're all having here. Let's take a look at this. Goodness gracious. Let's see. Here we go. I'm trying to share my screen. My computer freaked out for a second. All right. You should be seeing my screen. Here we go. Shout out to my friends at NFL Pro. Their product is amazing. I'm a very happy customer. You also get NFL Red Zone if you get the NFL Plus Premium subscription. Just an aside, if you love the NFL, I seriously cannot give it a bigger endorsement. But that being said, look at this. This is pathetic. All right. Now, I'm not trying to be I told you so guy, because I hate being I told you so guy. But when the Cowboys brought in Mike Zimmer, I know that a lot of people wanted to believe. All right. I wanted to believe that, the reboot of Boy Meets World was going to be good too, right? I wanted to believe that, if they do ultimately end up doing some sort of Office reboot, that it's going to be awesome. I wanted to believe that all the podcasts that talk about these shows were going to be great. But guess what? None of them are great. None of them are awesome. Reliving the glory days is not a good thing. And so bringing Mike Zimmer back 20 years later wasn't some magic elixir. And I maintain, I say this every time I get an opportunity to, the only other people who the Cowboys reportedly considered for their vacant defensive coordinator position after Dan Quinn left, outside of Mike Zimmer, who won the job, were Rex Ryan and Ron Rivera. And when the Mike Zimmer name was reported, everybody said, whoa, this sounds terrible. Whoa, Miss Lippy, we don't want anything to do with this. But then you drop Rex Ryan and Ron Rivera, and everybody said, please hire Mike Zimmer. And I get it. But this was always a bad hire, in my opinion. And look at this. I mean, look at what the Baltimore Ravens did. Let me zoom in over here. Lamar Jackson, 12 of 15, 182 yards, had the touchdown. He only had to throw one pass over 10 air yards in this game. It was the 13-yard touchdown to Rashad Bateman. From a rushing perspective, Derrick Henry, 25 carries to a hilarious 151 yards on the ground. 2 touchdowns. He also had a reception for 23 yards. By the way, Derrick Henry became the first player ever to have 150 or more rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 20 or more receiving yards in a single game against the Dallas Cowboys. So you want to know my thoughts on Mike Zimmer? My thoughts on Mike Zimmer are that this is not the job for him. And to kind of get to the point that we made about Rico Dowdle and Tyler Guyton or whatever, that's not Mike Zimmer's fault. Like, this was a bad idea from the very beginning. And just because he'd been around and, we heard all these things about how there was going to be discipline from Mike Zimmer and how that was his specialty and all this sort of stuff. Does anybody know, anybody in the class, Bueller, how many yards the Cowboys allowed off of plays that were a result of broken tackles against the Baltimore Ravens? I'll tell you, 158. And prior to Sunday Night Football, when I pulled this statistic, I'm pretty certain this didn't change between the Chiefs and Falcons. And granted, we do still have 2 games left tonight. That was the most in a single game that any defense had. And again, I'll say that stat for you because I know it's kind of confusing one more time. 158 yards for the Ravens came as a result of plays that involved a broken tackle from one of their players. So you can't even act like this is a group that is disciplined or hardworking. And I don't like to say things like that because I can't tell you how hard the Cowboys work. I'm not going to sit here and act like they don't take their job seriously, but they're not performing seriously in the moments that matter, clearly. And so this idea that discipline or Mike Zimmer being a hard ass was going to come in and save the day is just completely and totally false. And so, yeah, I mean, I saw some comments, people asking, did Dan Quinn really make a difference? I think that's too much of a coincidence at this point in time. Aaron Tomlinson idea, let's see here, says, after week 1, people believed in Zimmer, but nobody realized that only giving up 17 to Cleveland was not impressive. Marcus Moore one says, not going to lie, I'd rather have Zimmer over Rivera, Ryan. We was doomed from the start. Dude, Marcus, that's the exact thing the Cowboys were counting on. It was, I love you, Marcus, but it was people like you. It was people like you who said, oh, God, please give us Mike Zimmer. We want nothing to do with Ron Rivera or Rex Ryan. And so when they did, we celebrated because we fell for it, right? Man, how'd he separate his thumb from his finger? I can't believe it. I'm still falling for this 20 years later. That's exactly what happened with the Mike Zimmer hire. And I think the coincidence, back to this is Got05's question, did DQ really make that much of a difference? I think you could check the tape on this, check the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel, check my tweets, check my articles. I was out on Dan Quinn from the moment the Cowboys beat the Seattle Seahawks last year. If you remember, that game was on Thursday Night Football, 7 days after Thanksgiving. That was my point of demarcation for Dan Quinn. I was ready to move on. Happy for Dan, wish him well, no ill will or anything like that, but I was just ready to move on. That did not mean I wanted Mike Zimmer, but here we are. Now, that being said, I think that we are we're connecting dots that don't need to be connected. And we're saying, did Dan Quinn really make that much of a difference? I think Dan Quinn was a phenomenal defensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong. I think he had his flaws. I think he built this thing like an F1 car, and it was incredibly fast. And this, this is Monaco, right? Like you need a car that can do some more creative things because of the track that you play in, so to speak. I know that's a weird analogy. Maybe it doesn't totally hit with you, but I'm kind of feeling the moment, so just go with me. And so maybe the Mike Zimmer idea in a theoretical sense could have worked, but to answer the question, I think that Dan Quinn had his flaws, but I also think that we're just at a break point. And so I think that the break point comes as a coincidental sort of thing. The break point comes at Dan Quinn's departure. So it looks like, was Dan Quinn really the guy? Well, he was the guy and he was awesome, but they're all just kind of spent. I mean, we all watched this game. Like, think about how exhausted this team looked. I mean, they just looked devastated. They looked demoralized. And dude, today is September 23rd and they look checked out. This feels like a deep November game when all hope is lost and we're all just, fighting the traffic to go do Christmas shopping, and it's kind of raining, but not really. And it's just enough to have you turn on your windshield wipers, but it's cold outside and you have to have the heater on. So you got this weird fog going on. It's just a really uncomfortable situation and moment to be in. That's what it feels like. And we're in September. There's a week left in September. And this feels all sorts of clunky and broken for the Dallas Cowboys. That's a long way of answering the question, and I hope that it did. I don't think that it was just that Dan Quinn was the guy and everything changed when Dan Quinn left. I think it was a coincidental bit of timing with the Cowboys defense just kind of reaching its point of breaking. I mean, this is a team that after the 2021 season, the first year of Quinn, the first year of Micah Parsons, entering that 2022 year, I said, and again, check the tape all you want, I said, there's no way they have as many turnovers. There's no way they have as many sacks because these types of things are not repeatable. There is always regression to the mean in these types of areas and these types of statistics. 100 years of NFL history tells us this. Well, guess what? They had more. They outdid themselves in 2022. They have been the exception. They have been the only exception relative to this overall rule and kind of disposition. Shout out, of course, to Paramore. So it's just kind of the bottom finally coming out. It's just kind of them finally, that regression to the mean finally happening. And it looks like, was Dan Quinn really the guy? Got05 says, if we fall on our face against New York, does Zimmer get got? I don't think so. I think it's too early in this season, and I think they're all on one-year deals anyway. So what are you're gonna get rid of Zimmer after 4 games, and then what? Al Harris takes over. Cool, I guess. I like Al Harris. That's not meant to be a slight against him. It's just it's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic sort of thing. Tro_do says, I can't really even recall the last consistent disruptive defensive tackle the Cowboys have had to stop the run. Just saying. I mean, I write a stock report every week at bloggingtheboys.com, and I had a stock down from Ozzie Smith, and obviously I write a little blurb about each player, and what I wrote from Ozzie was what can we say? I mean, with seriously, and I think you all agree. What can we say about Ozzie Smith that hasn't been said? And it just feels mean at this point in time, and the Cowboys are forced to depend on him because they took him in the first round last year. And so they're stuck. They're just stuck. And all of these decisions, again, were bets that they should have hedged by way of roster construction and roster management over the offseason. But you cannot do that in September. You are 6 months too late, bro. And we spent the last half year telling you this, and you didn't want to listen. And you still don't want to listen. And instead, you want to lead the people who will follow your every waking word to say, well, look at Dak. He's making all this money. Look at CeeDee. He's making all this money. We're stuck. Savas Care, bro. You know what? You just signed them 5 minutes ago. There's no reason that you couldn't have gotten this done back in March like we told you way back then. Mode Siri, I'm getting that right, says, can we salvage this season? Is the answer fire Zimmer? The answer isn't to fire anyone. I mean, they're stuck. They got to look. We're on this ride, people. we're on the ride. We're already in the roller coaster going up the hill, and it's like, and we're having, maybe some of you are like thrill seekers, and if so, cool. But we've all kind of been there, I think, where we're like, was this a good idea? Should I really be sitting here? You're stuck. We're on the ride. All right. They're gonna take our picture after the final turn, and we're gonna buy it in the gift shop. We are on the ride. We are committed at this point in time, and it totally can be salvaged. I mean, they're 1-2. They were 1-2 3 years ago, and they still wound up winning the division and winning a playoff game. They were 1-2. No, not 3 years ago. I'm talking 6 years ago. Excuse me. In 2018, they were 1-2. They still won the division. They did fall to 3-5 before that ultimately happened. That was the season where they traded for Amari Cooper. And they won a playoff game. They beat the Seahawks, the first playoff win of the Dak Prescott era. So it can totally be salvaged. But I mean, and look, they've got some stinkers coming up. Like let's take a look here. All right, I've got the schedule coming up. Give me 1 second. I'm 2 clicks away from showing you the Dallas Cowboys schedule, and here we found it. Let me share my screen. Shout out to technology. Here is the Dallas Cowboys schedule, courtesy of Blogging the Boys on Twitter. They're going to beat the Giants. Does anybody think look, this team is bad. All right. They are really bad. All right. You will not catch me saying that they are not bad. They are very bad. But as Mally Mal 36 points out, still just 1 game out of first place. Let's go. They beat the Giants. They have a road divisional win in hand. They're at 500. And I know the Steelers are undefeated. All right. That's cool. That's great. They're going to beat the Steelers. All right. That's going to happen. They are going to get above 500. And I'm not trying to turn this into a Lions thing, because I know Lions fans are a little different. But that being said, I think they'll beat the Lions. I would take them to beat the Lions right now. I don't know what the line would be. But that being said, it's very possible, and not like, oh man, I'm telling you. No, it's just because the teams they're playing, it's very possible that they rip off 3 in a row here to get to 4-2 at the bye week. Now then all hell breaks loose, because then they'll play the 49ers, and Christian McCaffrey will probably be back, and then things are going to get very difficult. But it's totally possible. And the Eagles, I know they won, and kudos to them. It was a very impressive win against the New Orleans Saints. But the Eagles don't look super viable. The Commanders don't look super viable. The Giants are the worst team in the division. So they could totally win the NFC East again and be a playoff team and disappoint us and blah, 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 blah. Those things are all well within the range of possibilities. But you know what? It didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be us bartering. It didn't have to be us, pleading with the idea of like, oh, just go win the division, please. No, they could have been so much better, but they squandered all that time. And now they want to blame it on all these other things instead of themselves. But you're not going to fall for it because you are too smart, because you educate yourself. You have the BR app, the very best app in the world of sports, which allows you to access streams like this one. And I'm so grateful. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for hanging out with me for the last half hour. It's so much fun talking about the Dallas Cowboys, even when they stink, because doing so, look, we're a community. We're a community of fans. We have one, at the very least, shared common denominator, and it's that we hate this team, but we love this team, and we want to see them succeed. So I hope it obviously happens over the course of the next few days. It's going to be an interesting Thursday night. Like I said, I'll be doing a lot of streams in the upcoming weeks, upcoming month, here in the BR app. So if you haven't followed me yet, please do so. If you don't catch one live, you can always, and you can do this with the other creators who work on the BR app as well. That's one of the best things about the app, in my opinion. You can always go watch them after the fact. So follow me here in the BR app. You can do so right down below. You can see all the people that I root for, all the teams that I root for. You can make fun of me for being a Manchester United fan. I'm very well accustomed to it, not just as a Man United fan, but obviously as a Dallas Cowboys fan. If you like what I do and like hearing me talk about the Cowboys, you can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa. I am on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. If emails more your things, you're like Elle Woods buying that colorful MacBook and Legally Blonde, RJ.Ochoa at SBNation.com is where you can hit me up. Also, you can read my written work at bloggingtheboys.com. And I hope you have a great day. I hope the Cowboys didn't ruin it too much. It's been a long Monday, and it's barely even lunchtime. So I hope you get something delicious to eat, whether it's for lunch or dinner or maybe a late brunch, whatever the case may be. I hope you enjoy Monday Night Football. I hope all your bets hit or whatever you're doing, your fantasy. I hope it all goes your way. Football is, look, a bad football season is still way better than the best any other season. And so I will take that 100 out of 100 times, but this could have been different. It should have been different. And I maintain that, and you maintain that, because you are very educated and you know what is up. Thank you so much, my friends, for hanging out. I bid you all adieu, and see you next time.